Welcome to the third annual WTBS We Talking About Sports MMA Awards. Boys, this is one of my favorite shows to do every year. We started in 2020 with this show. It was just an idea like, hey, let's get some content out. Let's make an award show. And here we are 3 years later, still doing it. Ben Rowland, what's up, boys?
Glad to be here, man. Like you said, third annual MMA awards show. Definitely been an interesting 2023 for MMA and UFC, which is like the main, I guess, MMA league that we follow kind of like on a weekly basis. So, yeah, great year and definitely excited to review it with you guys.
What's up, Ben? What do you think about the 2023 MMA award show that we're doing today?
Yeah, happy to be here again for a third time. These are always pretty fun, kind of seeing our predictions as far as next year's champs and then finalizing down, the winners of each category. It's always a fun process, so I'm happy to be here. Still bummed out about the last UFC pay-per-view of the year, though. Still a little let down from that. We haven't had fights since. I don't think we're going to have fights until the second week of January, if I'm not
14th
mistaken.
or 12th. One of those
Yeah,
days.
so it's a pretty big gap, and they left a bad taste in our mouth. So happy to be here. It's the festive time, right? So let's get to the festivities. Let's get to these award shows.
All right. So just a little background on how we come to these awards. We create a forum every year. We all submit one winner per award that we give out. And then we kind of, go back and forth on who we think should be the rightful winner. And this year we had some tussles, man. We didn't all agree on the awards, but let's see what we got. And we're going to open up with the first award of the year. And that's 2023 Male Fighter of the Year award. And I think this award should go to no other than Sean Strickland. Ben, tell us why Sean Strickland should have won this award.
Yeah, I think Sean Strickland kind of stole a lot of the headlines in 2023, even outside of the octagon. He was making headlines in his interviews, most recently at the press conference. Big year for him. I think Sean Strickland became, like, at least world known in the States, right? I think that he's pretty well known now as a UFC fighter.
Household name, yes.
Yeah, people tend to like his, I don't give a fuck attitude and kind of just say what's on the tip of your tongue. So I thought big year for him. Didn't lose any fights. We saw the big upset here against Adesanya. Really, really nice to get these live highlights. Justin, I'm getting carried away watching the damn stoppage. But yeah, man, I think that he overperformed. I know that I had chosen him to be the champion a year ago. So I was a year early, but I was a fan of this guy coming up. He doesn't care when he's in there. He goes forward, and then we saw him, kind of use that Philly shell, add that to his game against Adesanya. So breakout year for Sean Strickland, and definitely I think the fighter of the year this year.
Yeah, Ben, you were correct. He was a household name. He fought 3 times in 2023 alone. He headlined every time that he fought as well. Wins over Nasruddin Imavov. He fought Magomedov. He knocked him out. And then, as we know, he beats Adesanya by UD. And I don't think anybody debated that win. Roland, me and you were together watching that fight. Was Sean Strickland the fighter of the year for you? Did you have any qualms about who should be if it's not him?
No. Like I said in the beginning, 2023 was an interesting year. There was an opportunity for somebody like Sean Strickland to come onto the scene and really take control of the headlines. Like Ben said, he's good on the mic. Even before this year, he made headlines with, how riled up he got Israel Adesanya before the fight with Alex Pereira. You had Adesanya going at Strickland because, they were going back and forth about fingernails and stuff like that. But, Strickland, no qualms about 2023 Fighter of the Year for me. And, he could have won pretty much any award that you think of this year. Breakout Fighter of the Year. He became mainstream household name like you guys were talking about. Comeback Fighter of the Year. He got knocked out in 2022 pretty badly. Alex Pereira, he used him as a springboard to come onto the scene. And then you have, Sean Strickland over here. Slowly but surely, he racked up some of those W's that you talked about. And then it culminated in, this victory over Israel Adesanya. And, you said we watched it together, and for the whole fight, I mean, I kept on waiting for Israel Adesanya to turn it on. But as everybody talked about after the fight, during the fight, his coach talked about it. We'll, talk about him a little bit later, maybe. He shut him down. There is nothing for Israel Adesanya to do. Game plan, everything aside, that fight was perfect. And you see him screaming here on the screen, perfect culmination of his 2023. So yeah, fighter of the year, no doubt here.
I agree. All right, let's move on to the female fighter of the year. Now, in the MMA world, there were some new names to different titles. We saw the end of Nunes. We saw new names come in. But one name that remained consistent from the year over to this year was PFL's own Larissa Pacheco. Larissa Pacheco was busy this year. She had 4 fights, and she had 2 first-round knockouts this year. She got a new championship. She went down from lightweight to featherweight, and she's claimed the featherweight division belt. So she's a 2-time champion in PFL. Probably the most active female fighter that is going on right now. Ben, Roland, what do you think about Larissa Pacheco? Did any other name deserve this win over her?
I was definitely on the side of Pacheco getting this award. I know for the most part we're going to go with UFC rostered fighters, right? Because that's the big show. But there's no doubt. I think you can put Pacheco up against any woman fighter, and I'm going to pick her to win. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. That's even against Nunes. I mean, didn't she have a win over Kayla Harrison as well?
She has a win at lightweight over Kayla Harrison.
And that's somebody that the PFL really was their baby, right? That was going to be the face of their women's division. And Pacheco beat her up. Pacheco stuffed the takedowns, beat her up. We see her win the PFL tournament for a second year in a row. Like you said, she went and she got another belt. I think that she's the scariest chick on the planet. That's what I think right now. I think it is Larissa Pacheco. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy that we ended up going with, somebody that's not on the UFC roster and more mainstream. This is like when, in the NBA All-Star game, you get that player that's from a certain country and they just pour in the votes and get them in. So we did it for the little guys here, thanks to Justin and Roland.
Yeah, and that's always the qualm, right? When you're picking other, from Bellator or PFL or whatever, these other promotions are called, is, maybe the talent from top to bottom on the roster isn't there. But Larissa Pacheco definitely, passes the eye test. She would, dominate, or not dominate, but be at the top of the rankings pretty much in any promotion you put her in. She has bricks for hands, as you see here, for those of you guys that'll be watching this. The highlights here being shown, and the only other person that I could have thought of was Grasso, just because she took over, she beat Shevchenko, and she was so dominant for so long, and to see Grasso take her out the way that she did, also I thought deserved to have her name thrown in the ring. But definitely not going to argue anybody off of Pacheco for fighter of the year.
There you go. All right, let's move on to 2023 breakthrough fighter of the year. There's a lot of belt changes this year, but we did come to a name, and I think we can all agree here. It's the cannibal, Alexandre Pantoja. He beat Brandon Moreno, split decision, very razor-sharp fight, 2 48-47s in that fight. And then he UD'd Royval at the end of the year to hold on to his title. Roland, is there anybody better than Alexander the Cannibal Pantoja right now for breakthrough fighter of the year?
No, I think he broke through multiple barriers, talking about not only, capturing, UFC gold, but we talked about it with Sean Strickland. I think he's, become more of a household name as he's, not only won gold, but just, ended the year by retaining it in a very exciting fight against Royval, where, he was kind of in trouble there towards the end of the fight there, but he, found the championship resolve, got that takedown, got himself to the end of the fight, and was able to lift up the strap once again. So yeah, no arguments here for me.
Ben, Roland talked about capturing UFC gold for Pantoja this year. Pantoja previously had captured gold at Access TV in 2015, so he finally broke through. Ben, what do you think about Alexander Pantoja here?
Yeah, I'm really happy that we went with him, because it's guys in this weight class really don't get much shine. For Pantoja, I think he might have had the best moment on the mic also last year.
Oh, yes.
When he was saying, "Look at me now, Dad. Look at me now," after winning the belt. So, Yeah, are you proud of me now? So I mean, I think that all around he did a really good job. Um, Even in the press conference, recently, you usually these I know he's a champ, but they really don't ask the smaller guys many questions, even dating back to the Mighty Mouse days. I do believe that people want to hear what he has to say. Um, might be is he Brazilian, Justin, with that
Yes, he
last name?
is. He's Brazilian.
Speaks English, so also he has everything to be the champ. Now it's about just controlling the gas tank in 2024 and not looking so gas late in fights. But I think that he's going to have a decent reign as a champion.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move over to 2023 fight of the year. Man, there was a lot of options here. The UFC gave us a lot of fights. PFL gave us a lot of fights. Bellator gave us a lot of fights. But we had to go with a fight that we thought was very, very close, and that's Islam versus Volk. After this fight, and this is Islam versus Volk 1, let me be clear, because Volk 2, that was very Islam sided. But after this fight, the MMA community, they had a debate of who really won that fight. It was contested, very highly contested. Roland, who won that fight to you, and why is this fight of the year?
Man, it's hard to say, that anybody was robbed or that somebody was given a victory because, they have the belt and you have to do so much to beat a champ. I don't think any of that was at play here. I think the winner, in my eyes, I walked away thinking that Volk did enough to win the fight, but that was just me. I went into the fight wanting Volk to win, so that's a little biased. I'm not going to argue anybody that thought Islam won. But just talking about the fight itself, I think we talked about this, the past 2 years when we talk about fight of the year. It has everything. Every guy could have put either guy out at either point in the fight. Both guys were on the brinks per se. Goes down all the way to a decision, controversial, talked about for weeks afterwards. A lot of great fights to talk about, throughout the year. The UFC, like Justin said, gave us a lot of great moments, but this was the best one by far, in my opinion. Just it had everything. You had Volk, coming up to fight Islam, who everybody was calling like baby Khabib. He's this invincible guy. He's just ragdolling everybody that he's fighting thus far. And then you have Volk here, coming, and you see here the bravado that he's showing. Yeah, great stuff. I want Ben to give his take. I've talked enough.
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah,
So
no,
this fight had multiple knockdowns and multiple submission attempts. Is there anything this fight didn't give you, Ben?
No, I think it was also to add to what Roland said. I think that he summed it up pretty well. The only thing was this is the first time that we saw Volk kind of be vulnerable. Later in the fight, we saw him kind of gassed. We saw that. I mean, they always say if there was another round, this guy would have got it. That fight was really one of those. We got to remember that it was in Abu Dhabi. So going to a decision, I'm on the same side of Roland. I thought Volkanovski won. Yes, I was going for him going into the fight, but just overall, I thought, I don't remember him getting rocked as much as he did. Now watching the highlights back again, should I seen him, get wobbled twice? But the optics, just overall in the fight, I thought Volk had a lot better optics, with Islam later on in the fight and just, diving for the crotch. So it was fight of the year because it took that turn, right? It took that turn mid-fight to where one guy kind of started losing momentum, the other guy gained it. And I think had it been in Vegas, I think we might have at least gotten a split. I don't think we even got a split. I think it was unanimous, but very close, very contested fight and a rare, exciting Islam fight. Why lie?
Yeah, and you beating unanimous decision in Australia. This fight was in Australia. That surprised me even more because, if it was in Dubai, you'd think, okay, I can see why they gave the nod to Islam, but a UD in Australia, I thought for sure Volk was winning one of those cards.
But wasn't the second one in Australia, Justin?
The second one was in Dubai.
Oh, okay, so I had them mixed up.
In short notice, remember, Volk took it on I don't know if it was 4 days or something like that. Very
6 or
short.
something,
Yeah. So, all right, let's move over to 2023 knockout of the year. Now, this one, comes from a recent fight, our most recent card. Ben, I'm going to let you lead because this is the one you picked, and I think it's the perfect one as well. And that's Josh.
I fought hard for you, Josh Emmett. I fought hard. This is where I say that I like the process of how we come down to the last one.
Me too. It's
Because
fun.
this one, some people might think it's a lot of recency bias, but I mean, just one shot, he's on the ground, compulsing, and it's just a very scary scene. Josh Emmett, no follow up, but he made sure to be heard. He roared in this dude's unconscious face. But screw the recency bias. This was one of the highlights of this end of the year pay-per-view that I thought was underwhelming altogether. And part of it was because that was a first round knockout, right? We didn't get to see too much of the fight. But I mean, that's just like connection and then dead body, bro.
Yeah.
So there's, might not be the biggest name, but Josh Emmett definitely delivered. And, tip of the hat to Josh Emmett for no follow-up hammer fist. He kind of just got that yell off for a good picture right there, and let it be, bro. Awesome knockout. I think hands down the knockout of the year.
Roland, I think of, that hellacious right hand, and words come to mind like moonshot in golf, where you hit a home run. That's what this was, right? This is a home run, a moonshot.
That's a moonshot. That's a boom shot. I can't think of any other phrases right now. But like Ben said, no follow-up shot. And he had the opponent days later, Bryce Mitchell, bless his heart, on Instagram Live, thanking him for not doing the follow-up shot and saying, "Hey man, like you could have really like severely injured me had you gone in for that follow-up shot. I'm good right now, but had you done that, it would have been bad." So you had the opponent thanking him for not making it worse. Like Ben said, there was a little bit of, controversy here between the three of us as far as, the debate around who should have won the award. But at the end, I'm on board with Josh Emmett here, capping the year off, last card of the year, probably the best moment of that card in terms of just, an electric knockout. And then, like Ben said, you see him convulsing there. I have never seen that in the UFC, so that's another reason why I have no problem with that being a knockout of the year. Is you got Bryce Mitchell here, having a seizure in the middle of the ring. So just glad he was all right, and hopefully he'll step into the octagon with the right amount of rest. But yeah, crazy knockout.
Guys, for fun, should we give the honorable mention what the other one was, or should we just leave them wondering what it was?
Yeah, maybe they can ask in the comments.
Ask in the comments if you want to know what second place was.
Or if you guys have another moment, yeah, because there's a lot to watch. A lot of UFC minutes, a lot of MMA minutes. I'm sure I didn't watch all the knockouts.
I know this might seem like recency bias, but I mean, when we're talking about knockout,
it's good, bro. It's good.
It's nasty.
Yeah. But for fun, if you want to know, leave it in the comments. We'll tell you. 2023 submission of the year. There was a lot of really good submissions. Somebody who made debut of the year for us later on that we'll talk about had a hell of a submission himself. But we finalized and we came up with the squeeze that was so tight on Shevchenko's head that it looked like the worst suntan you could imagine. The top of her face all red, the whole bottom of her face all white. It was like the worst sunburn. Ben, Roland, what do you think about this submission?
For me, I mean, the reason why it's, submission of the year, not only, the intensity that Justin just described behind, the choke that Grasso was able to get in on Shevchenko, but just the moment, the moment that, that it was, Grasso capturing the belt in a crazy fashion. No one expected that upset of the year, probably. Depending on the odds and what you look at. So yeah, crazy moment. And again, no debate for me on submission of the year here.
Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I think it was a lot also. This one had to do with a surprise factor. I mean, it's not the craziest submission, right? It's a rear naked choke. One of the more basic submissions, but who it was on, the reign that she had, Shevchenko. I don't think she's ever been submitted in the UFC either. So to see it go down like that and how quickly she transitioned to her back, for those watching on YouTube or on Facebook, wherever visually, I mean, let's remember how quickly she got on there. It was like glue. She was a backpack. As soon as Shevchenko showed half of her back, she went and grabbed it really quickly, sunk in the choke, and then essentially it wasn't even all the way under the neck. It was just the pressure and, like Justin said, the squeeze, because there you could kind of still see it on her chin, but it was just too much. So yeah, we didn't give Grasso. We had to give Grasso some love somewhere, right? So we got to do it here with the submission. Impressive submission, and Mexico got into the chat.
Yep.
There we go. All right. Moving on to 2023 comeback of the year. Ben, I'm gonna, let it go to you first because this is the one that you went with. And last year we went with Mike Perry. This year we're going with
another non-UFC
Predator.
fight, but with the Predator. This was in boxing, but I mean, we hadn't seen Francis Ngannou in any type of combat action in over a year. This was his first boxing match, I think, in the United States, because he does have some boxing record, back in France. I believe he had 2 or 3 fights, something like that, and then changed to an MMA fighter. But he went, up against the lineal heavyweight champion, the unanimous, undisputed heavyweight champion in Tyson Fury, and got, the knockdown with that left hook to Fury. And we've seen it's very controversial. If you go and you watch the highlights, Justin did a great job. I think boxing, it's a little harder to get these highlights, but the count of after he was getting up, I mean, the count got damn near 18, 20 seconds instead of your normal 10 count. He did get a lot of time to recover. We saw him win on majority scorecards, not even a unanimous, against a guy like Ngannou that everybody said stood no chance. I know Fury was close to a minus 2,000 favorite, if I'm not mistaken. And Ngannou took him to the brink to where we might be okay watching Francis Ngannou box again. It's not going to be a one-and-done thing like Conor McGregor. I really don't think it is. I think now that, especially that Wilder lost, over the weekend, I think that fight matches up well, because Deontay Wilder isn't going to be outboxing Francis Ngannou. It's just going to be who hits who first, cleanly in the head in that type of fight. Pause. But Francis Ngannou won himself another huge payday, and his comeback of the year was his highest payday ever. So I think Francis Ngannou, although it was a boxing fight, he is known as an MMA guy. He was writing for all the little guys also, got his opportunity, shined brightly, and Francis Ngannou is our comeback fighter of the year.
Roland, stepping into the ring in Riyadh with Tyson Fury, that's a big enough win in itself. But the fact that the community said, hey, we kind of think Francis Ngannou won that fight. What do you make of this?
I mean, he lost the fight. So that's the only thing I'm going to say. It's like but look, that's just answering your question. Like I think he lost the fight. Like even, it's not one of those like Volkanovski and Islam questions where I'm like, oh shit, like, who really did win that fight?
It was closer on the cards than Volk and Islam.
I know, but I still think, Fury, everybody walked away thinking that he really won that fight. But my thing is, this is the one time where I think it's okay to, celebrate a moral victory, if you will. He didn't come out, a winner on the scorecards. Ben was alluding to, he did it for the little guy. Let's just be frank here. It was, Francis Ngannou versus Dana White for a lot of, to the end of 2022, the end of his, term with the UFC, if you will, leading to, 2023, Dana was taking shots at him every time that he could, laughing at the gimmick fight, if you will, that this was. But, like Ben said, though, he won. Even though he didn't win the fight, he set himself up for future, 7 or 8 digit paydays, whatever, the asking price is for Francis Ngannou is. I think he can name it. The only thing that I'm interested in for Ngannou at this point is if we see him actually, fight in the PFL octagon, because, he is a PFL fighter. That is, who allowed him to go ahead and, pursue this venture. So, hats off to Ngannou. Like I said, he did lose, but no problem, celebrating this victory, because I think it was much more than the scorecards, because this is, one of those fights, it is kind of gimmicky. So, who cares, what the scorecards really said, right? You know,
it's an
Ngannou came out
exhibition.
and, you know, he did his thing in the ring. That's all that mattered. You know, he didn't go out and get embarrassed like some people thought he was going to go out and do,
Like Connor.
So yeah, shout out to Ngannou holding his own, doing more than holding his own. You know, had people rooting for him, you know, up to the very end. So yeah, I'm okay with this here, comeback fighter of the year.
But also, like, let's not get it twisted. This is the equivalent of Connor fighting Mayweather at heavyweight.
Yeah,
It literally is the equivalent. This is as good as he gets.
Well, I don't know if you know, Fury is like as highly like touted as Mayweather will be like historically.
Yeah, he's not as talented as Mayweather is in the ring. I mean,
But,
Mayweather's skill set
I get
is
what you're
far
saying.
For
above and
heavyweights,
beyond.
Justin.
Yeah,
obviously he's not as quick as Mayweather is, but for heavyweights, this guy's
I'm not even
damn
talking
near
about
7
speed.
feet.
I'm just talking like technical ability in the ring.
Yeah, I'm
he's
just talking about
Footwork,
levels as
everything.
boxers.
There's a higher level with Mayweather than there is with Fury.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
It's the highest level of heavyweight boxing. There's
Right now.
nobody higher than Fury.
Right now,
Yes.
I agree.
That part I agree. It's the highest level of fighter, but the technical ability of the fighters in the ring, you're talking about a big difference in the dancing partners when it comes to their skill set.
Like Connor was never really worried about the KO. I mean, I know that the ref did a standing stoppage, but Connor also went into that fight like, okay, how badly am I possibly going to get hurt? Where on this spectrum, it's like, okay, what happens if Ngannou loses and Dana was right? Rare Dana Whitell. But imagine if Tyson Fury puts him out in the third round like everybody expected, you know, then for sure Ngannou's next fight is in the PFL, you know, smart cage, whatever it's called. Yeah. But now I ask you all, will his next fight be in boxing or MMA?
I think with the amount of fighters that are available in the heavyweight division in the PFL, it's definitely in boxing. Who's he going to fight in the PFL? There's nobody there right now for him to fight. While, like you mentioned, Deontay Wilder just fought on his own card, and he looked bad. You can sell that on name alone. And honestly, I think Ngannou would probably be favored in that fight.
Yeah, I think it's in the boxing ring. I think it's in the boxing ring as well. There's a lot of names, like Justin said, that Ngannou can pick from, and a lot of names that I think would accept that call and accept that payday because they'd probably see that as an easy dub for themselves. So yeah, I think it's in the boxing ring.
Yeah, Riyadh season will call him once again.
But do you think he will ever fight for PFL?
Oh yeah, I mean, he will.
He's a man of his word, and he did say that he would, and he said that he would at least once.
He did, and
we
gotta take him for, like, he walked away from the UFC, so we do have to take him for a man of his word. He's a guy that obviously comes from poor beginnings, right, and has come a long way. So he has taken that honorable, that honest, and like we said, fighting for the fighters, right, in that battle with Dana White.
So with that, I think with PFL's purchasing of Bellator, they have said they wanted to keep the event separate for quite some time. But with the purchase of Bellator, now you have a heavyweight stable where he could pick a name out of. Maybe even fight the champion, Ryan Bader, at some point. You could see something like that.
Bader and Ngannou?
He beat the shit out of Bader.
Yeah. All right, let's move over to 2023 upset of the year. Roland, I'm going to let you go first on this one. The winner was Alexa Grasso. Shevchenko came in this fight minus 600 favorite. That means an 86% chance of implied odds of victory. Roland, what do you think of this fight? Was this the correct winner for upset of the year?
Yeah, it was. You know, this to me was, I don't know if the odds were as steep, but this just reminds me of kind of like when Usman got beat by Leon Edwards the first time with the headshot KO. And I'm just bringing that up because Shevchenko, she was in everybody's parlay pieces. I don't think anybody was thinking that Grasso was going to win this. I mean, maybe me being, you know, casual in the, you know, MMA world, looked at Alexa Grasso and just thought, oh, this is another girl that Shevchenko is going to run through. I mean, maybe not, because the odds do agree with that train of thought, you know, being minus 600. So yeah, the complete shock factor, the submission, you know, winning submission of the year earlier, the odds where they were. Yeah, upset of the year. It was one of those things I didn't even watch. I honestly didn't watch. I had to come back and see the footage because I took it for granted that Shevchenko was going to win. So shame on me.
Ben, what do you make of Alexa Grasso upset of the year?
Yeah, obviously she already got submission of the year, so I did try and battle for Sean Strickland over Israel Adesanya here. But honestly, I think if we run back to that pay-per-view episode and if we even go back to our Doubt Master, Justin, I had said Grasso was going to beat Shevchenko, and we did go with her. But with the odds, it was a way bigger upset than anything else this year that, actually mattered. She was over Shevchenko was over minus 1,000, and she got finished. I don't know. I don't even know what the odds were for Grasso by sub. Those had to have been insane. I'm sure somebody had it out there, but yeah, this by the numbers, this was the biggest upset of the year. This was by far one of the most surprising upsets of the year, just based on Shevchenko's reign. So yeah, she did get it. I was, you know what I'm saying, but it was too many awards for Alexa Grasso, man.
Yeah, maybe this is
I'm gonna
becoming
be
an
Kanye
Alexa
and
Grasso
she's Taylor
podcast.
Swift. I'm running up on her, and I'm saying Sean Strickland should have won this award.
I'm gonna let you
All
have it.
right. Let's move over to 2023 Coach/Gym of the Year award. A lot of options, but we had to go with the guy who had the most champions, Eric Nixick. That's from Extreme Couture MMA. Let's talk about his champions. You got Sean Strickland, middleweight champion, Ryan Bader, Bellator heavyweight champion, Vinny Magalhães, the M1 champion, and Patchy Mix, the Bellator champion. Other fighters from this gym, Francis Ngannou, Yuri Prohashka, Misha Tate, Amir Albazi. I mean, the names go on, and they're at the highest level. Ben, what do you think about Eric Nixick, Coach of the Year?
Yeah, I think that, like you said, I mean, those are pretty big names, and they're across different promotions. So, he has territory on just about all promotions and shit now, even with Nagano in the boxing, right? Because they're a gym out of Las Vegas, I believe, right, Justin? If I'm correct. So
Las Vegas and Toronto.
yeah, Vegas is kind of where it's at now for MMA training with the Institute over there, Extreme Couture's over there. So yeah, I think that this is rightfully so. He has a champion everywhere. His name is, on pretty much all promotions. Was he in Ngannou's corner? I know that's kind of an off the top question.
I believe he was.
It was.
Okay, so yeah, bro. I mean, this is hands down Coach of the Year. Impact.
Roland, what about Eric Nixick,
Yeah.
Extreme Couture, Coach of the Year?
Yeah, this is unanimous for me. No debate. For me, solidified it with the game plan that they put together here with Sean Strickland pictured in the team, completely shutting down Israel Adesanya's offense. Just had nothing. He was not able to get off any combination whatsoever the whole fight. Sean Strickland was leading the dance the whole way, and then you fast forward to the man dance, exactly. Fast forward to Ngannou versus Fury, and again, we just got done talking about it. People thought Fury was going to put him out, but Ngannou and Eric Nixick, they had something in store for him, and something that was able to give Fury some trouble. So yeah, props to him and their gym, and then Patchy Mix, capping off the year with his victory over Pettis. So yeah, man, no debate here. Justin, did you have any other gym, or were you all on board here as well?
No, we were all on board. This was unanimous. And I got to say, I was really happy to give it to him, too, because I do listen to Anik and Florian. And the times that he's come out on the podcast, man, he's awesome to listen to. I'm a fan of Eric Nixick because of that.
Most of his fighters were dogs also. And, winning. Patchy Mix was a dog to Pettis. Strickland was a dog to Adesanya. And, I mean, I know Ngannou lost, but huge dog. So
and Bader's been holding that belt for quite some time now.
Cashing underdog tickets.
And I'm glad you brought up that John Anik podcast and his features on media wise. The guy is pretty cerebral, and he talks about more than just fighting and taking it out of the octagon and making sure the guy's mental is there. He
That's
went
my
in
favorite
depth.
part when he's
He
talking
went in
about
depth
stuff like
about that with Sean Strickland, and just how much it meant to him just to see Sean Strickland's growth personally. So a lot of times, we talk about this stuff, what these guys do in the octagon, but as we know that these guys, they step out into the real world and they deal with stuff just like we do. And to have a guy like this guy in your corner that really takes that into consideration. Yeah, I mean, I don't see why anybody wouldn't want to be coached by him or have a guy like him in their corner. So I'm glad you brought that up, though, Justin.
100%. All right, moving over to the 2023 debut of the year. And let's not make you wait anymore. It's the man, Bo Nickel. Ben, Bo Nickel fought 2 times in the UFC main card this year. We had seen him previously last year in the Dana White Contender Series, but he got 2 finishes for himself. Now, everyone knows Bo Nickel as this amazing wrestler. He has all the credentials at Penn State, all the state titles in high school, but he has 2 finishes this year, one by knockout, one by submission. This is a man that has a lot of talent, a lot of bright future ahead of him. Why was Bo Nickel worthy of debut of the year?
I think just the hype that came with him. And then, people were betting, will his fight finish in less than 60 seconds? Of course, this year he didn't have the greatest of opponents. I know he did fight Pickett, but even him, he's really not that good. He does have size, but I expect him to get a top 15 fight right out. I know he just got booked. Oh man, the name
Brundage.
Against Cody Brundage.
Brundage, yeah, there you go.
So I know he just got booked, but right after that, I'm looking top 15 in the summer. I think that he can be active with how fast he's finishing this fights. I think 2024 is the year where next year we're talking about breakthrough fighter of the year with Bo Nickel because he's in the top 5 or maybe he already got his title shot. I think that he's going to have a pretty smooth 2024. So 2023, he lived up to the hype, came in, handled quick business. I'm expecting to see double the activity in 2024. So from 2 fights to 4. I hope this is not the Sean O'Malley super slow path. This guy is way more ready than Sean O'Malley was. Okay,
No.
This is like in the NBA when they talk about generational talents. If it were MMA wise, this is kind of generational as far as wrestling goes.
Yeah, he has that base.
You see the quick hands. He's a dog, and he's been competitive his whole life. So I expect double the fights in 2024. I want 4 fights for him.
So I think you have valid concern, Ben, because he does have 2 fights left on his contract, and he has mentioned taking the Sean O'Malley route. So I don't see him fighting in the top 10 in those next 2 fights. Once that contract gets renewed, maybe we see the entrance of the top 10. And if you have 4 fights for him,
Justin,
at that point, maybe we can
he's got to fight top 15 guy.
With the 2 fights left, we'll see where he goes. Roland, what do you make of debut of the year, Bo Nickel?
Oh man, I like Bo Nickel. Just there's something about him that just makes me laugh. Like I don't know if it's because he's going up against guys that he knows that he can beat. He's been lined up, minus 1,000 at multiple times in his fight. So, the odds of him losing aren't very high. But the guy just has an innate confidence in himself. He knows he's going to go in and do the business, and he's not shy about it. He has a confidence that I can, I can follow, and I like the guy. So no problem here. Debut of the year, like Ben said, lived up to the hype, got the W's. Has a following already. Thought it was funny. I don't know if it was this year necessarily that it happened, but he bumped off a guy that's going to be fighting for the belt off of the pay-per-view and onto the prelims for I think it was his debut, wasn't it, for Bo Nickel? He bumped off DDP of one of the UFC cards, and DDP was pretty pissed off about it because
Jamie Pickett,
there we go. So yeah, Bo Nickel has the hype, living up to it, and like Ben said, I want to see him have more activity in 2024 and potentially make way for himself to be the breakthrough fighter of the year. And maybe he takes a guy that he's lined up maybe minus 250 or minus 300, something a little bit more challenging for him.
That's gonna be his whole career. Those are the numbers, bro.
He's a stud though. The guy's a stud, like Ben said.
He's a blue chipper, like Ben said. He's a blue chipper. Generational talent. He's got the background to win it. So, a lot of wrestlers, when they have that one hitter quitter power, they end up, being pretty successful in the UFC. All right, moving over to 2023 rivalry of the year. Now, there wasn't a lot of verbal rivalries this year, but there's one that definitely stood out, and that's with companies. And let's move over to the winner, UFC versus USADA. Now, we got Conor McGregor here because he's kind of the face of this whole issue that happened. UFC and USADA had this whole anti-doping program that has been, implanted for over 10 years now. We've known USADA to be their anti-doping program. But, with Conor wanting to make his return, and still kind of wanting to be on the juice, that kind of forced UFC's hand and forced USADA's hand. USADA's now out. UFC was asking USADA to start making apologies towards them. Really had them by the balls, the proverbial balls. Roland, Ben, what do you make of this?
End of an era, like you said. Just the UFC used to tout USADA. I was reading something, about the antitrust lawsuit with Endeavor and their purchase of the UFC, and part of the UFC's pitch book was, the use of USADA, and touting that they had the cleanest sport. Right? That's the reason why you have an anti-doping agency there to administer the tests and Olympic style, if you will. I don't know if it's that stringent, but you hear the stories of John Jones, hiding under the octagon to duck these guys drug testing. I don't know if it's necessarily USADA, but you just hear the stories of guys showing up in the middle of the night for a test or in the middle of the morning. So yeah, definitely sad, or not sad, but an end of an era. I don't know really how to describe it or the feeling behind it, but it is interesting that the UFC would tout this organization and then kind of split ways when maybe their views have kind of shifted or they don't really align with them anymore. So yeah, interesting departure, to say the least.
Ben, what do you make of the situation?
Yeah, I mean, the UFC was way better before USADA, and maybe it'll get back to that. Maybe we'll see Overeem fighting in 2024 again, baby. You know what I mean? Because like you alluded to, everybody's known that Connor's been on the juice since he hasn't been fighting, since he's been recovering. That shit's probably helping him recover as well. So it's definitely because of him that USADA is gone. I know the contract was coming up to terms, but it's been damn near a decade of them working together. Why wouldn't they just renew the contract if everything was going well? They're handing out jackets for so many,
Clean tests.
clean tests and whatnot. Like, this was solely off, the strength of being able to get Connor in before this waiting period bullshit.
A 6-month waiting
he still
period.
doesn't have a fight lined up, so I don't know if they're just waiting until the new year turns. We know Dana, he already started dropping some fight news, but maybe we hear some Connor fight news in January, boys. Just based off that being the time that USADA is going to be out the door.
UFC 300 is in April, so they got to get to it if they want to make.
It's either going to be that or
hard.
International Fight Week. One of those two is where he's going to fight.
Yeah, currently I probably would lean International Fight Week with the way things are going. He was at the boxing event last weekend, and he was talking about how he's never been treated this way, and no one should ever treat a name like his that certain way. So
he's like, in what way?
He's upset that that he's being stalemated by the UFC and he doesn't have a fight out yet.
Oh yeah. So, but back to the USADA stuff. I do think that the UFC, like, I don't know if they were necessarily better before USADA, but I don't think that the UFC needs USADA. I think, there's other agencies out there. There's technology everywhere now that, can be implemented and used for this testing. And, the UFC has always bended the rules for people that, that they've needed to do it for, right? So even with USADA, just the case that ended a couple of months ago, the Mark Hunt versus Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar failed those tests. He even failed a test the night of the fight, and still went in and fought Mark Hunt. And just
so did John Jones, and they sat on it till after the fight.
Yeah, exactly. Just shit like that. So it was just unnecessary for this relationship to continue going. I think, and the Conor McGregor thing was just, I think, the icing on the cake.
It felt like the USADA was just necessary for the sale. Once it was sold to Endeavor, let's just go back to what it was before. And I've always been a proponent of let them juice and let the best fight the best after that. So I'm hoping we get something like that. Now they're going to have someone else in place to oversee it. So they do have something starting January 1st to replace USADA. So we'll see what happens. All right, moving over to our last award. 2023 events of the year, man. There was a lot of events that stood out this year, a lot of title changes, like we said, but we're going to go with the event in Salt Lake, and that's UFC 291. UFC 291 had 11 total fights on the card, and only 2 fights that night did not see a finish. We also had Jan Blachowicz and Alex Pereira making his way up to light heavyweight. Light heavyweight and winning. And we ultimately got to see the BMF title on the line. Justin Gaethje knocking out Dustin Poirier. Ben, was there a better card in 2023 than UFC 291?
No, I don't think. I mean, I know that it was debatable with the Volk and the Islam card, but I think in terms of fights delivering, I think that there might have just been 2, maybe 3 decisions this whole fight card.
2.
2, and one of them being Pereira against
Blachowicz.
Blachowicz in a fight that was rowdy, right? Because he was getting taken down, but anytime the fight would start standing up, Blahovich's life was flashing before his eyes every punch that was being thrown. So all around, I just feel like this night delivered all around. Really exciting pay-per-view. Didn't have a title fight, as the main event or the co-main event. But this was one of those people main events, the Gaethjes and the Poiriers,
the BMF
the Chandlers and the Poiriers. Those are the ones, for the MMA hardcore fans that don't really need a belt on the line because you kind of know who's fighting and the reputation that they have when they get in there. So, yeah, I'm happy that we, decided on this card without it having any belts on the line.
Roland, Ben has said there's no belts on the line. Do you consider the BMF title the belt for UFC
No,
291, or is that just the, like you
from
said,
a guy who
people's
hangs
main
up
event?
bubble banners and in-season tournament banners, Justin? I see it coming from you, right?
I'm asking the question. I'm not fighting for one or the other. I'm just asking the question.
I don't consider it a belt, but I do acknowledge, what Poirier and Gaethje did. I mean, they are 2 of the baddest motherfuckers in the UFC. That is no debate. Both of those guys. Then that's facts. They proved it that night. Both those guys are not shy. They'll go out and say that they're just there to bang, and that's exactly what they did that night. And for me, I thought that could have been knockout of the year, just the way that Gaethje got Poirier to drop just like a sack of potatoes, like this lights out. Never really seen him put out like that, but hard to argue with the card in its totality. Only like 2 fights, like you said, went the distance or non-finishes. This had everything. Even this Tony Ferguson and Bobby Green fight. So yeah, it's
submission on that fight as well.
This card had everything. So no debate here for me either.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing the BMF title to be a real title. I just wanted to pose the question to Roland what he thought of the title. Not taking a side, but I like to see Ben jump the gun here and there. He was squirming a little bit there.
No, we associate you with Mickey Mouse championships and in-season tournaments going next to NBA championship banners. So
I don't know why I'm being associated with that when I wasn't.
You would have been touting that in-season tournament championship if the Rockets won.
I'm trying to go back to back,
and I wasn't for it either, so it doesn't matter either. Let's go over the 2023 predictions. This is last year's predictions. We made these predictions. We said at the end of the 2023, these would be the champions. Let's look over it. Ben, you had Kai Kara France as champion. I had Brandon Moreno retaining Scratch It. We didn't get either one. We were wrong.
They fought each other. Moreno didn't retain the belt in a fight that Kai Kara France looked pretty live in.
Yeah, right? So that liver kick.
I think that maybe Kai Kara France could find himself fighting Pantoja again, just like Moreno can find himself fighting Pantoja again pretty soon.
All right, bantamweight. Ben, you went with Aljo. I went with Marab, and Sugar is the champion there. And I actually believe Roland had Sugar winning as his prediction. Lightweight.
Yeah, but then when the fight came around, Roland was Team Aljo, so we're going to disregard that, all right? We're going to disregard.
All right, moving over to Feather. Ben, you had Yair Rodriguez. I had Volk. I think I win here, but I do think Volk won't be holding on to that for quite some time. I think he'll be losing this pretty soon.
Yeah, and we saw that fight happen as well. A pretty exciting fight. Yair doesn't back out of fights, but Volk definitely, he was a rightful favorite in that fight. He showed it. I think he finished Yair, right?
Yeah.
I think he got Yair out of there. But yeah, Yair is always in good fights, and I'm happy we saw that one play out.
All right, moving over to lightweight. Ben, we're both right here. We have Islam, and I don't see anybody beating Islam right now. He has a stranglehold on that title.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we do have that rematch with Oliveira coming up early in 2024. I do believe that is his biggest threat. So let's see how that one goes.
Welterweight, you said Usman would finish with the title. I had Leon Edwards. One for me. Middleweight, move over. Ben, you had Pereira. I had Pereira. It's Strickland, the guy you said the year before. So I'm gonna give you a point there for calling that one early.
Nah, we don't give participation points. Okay. The Leon Edwards one is a good call though, because Leon Edwards wasn't really a very popular guy. I would say Leon Edwards was as popular as Bilal Muhammad is, going for a title run. He just finally got his shot and he made it happen. So yeah, that's a good call on Leon Edwards.
All right, moving over to light heavyweight, you had Jamal Hill. Probably would be the title holder if he didn't get hurt. Maybe has it still. I had Ankalev, and it's Pereira. Pereira has the title right now, so
Jamal Hill still has the title, bro. He never lost the title.
Well, he did relinquish it, so we have to go with his man's words.
Forced him to do that.
Let's go to heavyweight. You had John Jones. Good call. I had Cyril Gane. I thought he was like John Jones, and I thought he would finish him standing. I was wrong. John Jones is the man, and I should never doubt John Jones ever again.
Yeah, I think as long as John Jones is in the UFC, we just got to keep picking John Jones.
All right. Well, let's move over to our futures here. 2024, our predictions. Flyweight, I got Amir Albazi. Roland?
Manel Cape. I like what this guy brings to the fight. Intensity. I think he has the ability to put anybody out. Has all the skill. Just needs to kind of put it together up here. So we'll see what happens.
Ben, you got Pantoja.
Yeah, got the breakthrough fight of the year. Like I said, I kind of gave a little teaser, but I expect him to have a pretty decent title run. I think his toughest competition is going to be the rematch with Moreno, but he's good standing. He's great on the ground. So Pantoja for 12 months and more of being a champ.
All right, moving over to bantamweight. I'm going to go with Chito Vera. I think he's going to fight, Sugar. I think he beat Sugar again, and I'm hoping he holds on to it. It's going to be a tough hold. Roland.
For me, I got Sandhagen. When I saw you put Chito Vera up here, I was like, let me put Sandhagen. Not only do I like Sandhagen, but I think he has the skill to get it done. But for this to come to fruition, it's all going to be just matchmaking. It all is going to be, who does Sandhagen match up with next? Do they give him the next shot? Is it Merab getting the next shot? We all know Aljo's up fighting Cater now, probably for UFC 300. Yeah. So, it's there. It's just all matchmaking. So I'm going to, hope Sandhagen walks away with it.
You got to think that if Chito wins, Sandhagen gets automatic shot, right? Because he manhandled Chito, so he should get his shot.
But we got to remember Dana White left that fight.
Yeah.
Mid-fight.
True. Yeah, absolutely.
So why would he want to run it back that soon?
Good call.
And Merab was probably in better graces with Dana now than Sandhagen, right?
I don't know, because he hates that Merab never wanted to fight Aljo. So I think he's kind of punishing him about that too.
Who does he love more? Then
it really does come down to the matchmaking.
Yeah,
That's why when you said that, Roland, I was like, that's a hell of a point, because I'm going with Merab. But I think both guys are on the shit list, bro. I think both guys are on the shit list, and I think they better hope. I agree with both of y'all. I mean, I want to see Chito Vera win also, but there's no way in hell. Now that Aljo already got booked up a weight class against Calvin Cater, he's out of the picture.
Yeah.
Right? So it's either Merab or it's Sandhagen, because that's the top of the food chain there in that division. And it seems like they're both sitting out and waiting to see what happens in that fight. I think Chito does win, like Justin said, but it's the next fight for Chito.
None of us have.
Both of these guys can take him down. So, yeah, give me Merab. I just feel like the title's going to have to be defended, once, at least 2 or 3 times in 2024. Yeah. So I actually think Merab and Sandhagen both get their shot in 2024, as long as Chito doesn't throw a wrench in there, because Dana's giving O'Malley the auto rematch. They're running that shit back, bro. And it'll be a third time at that point.
None of us have O'Malley retaining, man. So that's going to get interesting.
So you think he gets an auto rematch, even though he's this is his first offense.
Bro, come on, that's Dana's.
That'll be the third fight for them, and that's Dana's guy. Like,
What's he gonna
one that
go
rose
get
up
somebody
through
to go
Dana White
wrestle
Contender
Cheeto and then
Series.
have to worry about that again with O'Malley? Like,
That's like his son, bro.
Well, see, I'm saying that's where matchmaking is important, because I'm like, if he gets the auto rematch, Sandhagen's already been waiting out a long time. Marab has been waiting out a long time.
but Sandhagen also got hurt, so that's
True,
why
and Sandhagen's recovering on that elbow. What happens if Dana says eliminator, Marab and Sandhagen, right? That's a 50-50 chance for me and Ben. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, facts.
See where the dice.
I think they both get a shot at the title, though, Roland. I think they both do.
I hope so. They're both deserving.
And we already know Cheeto's getting one, right? So.
Yes, he's already lined up, signed. All right, move over to featherweight. We all got Ilia Topuria winning this. For me, after seeing Volk in Islam and seeing Volk finally be vulnerable and get knocked out, and seeing what Ilia did to the previous guys like Bryce Mitchell and Emmett, it's just he's violence. I gotta go Ilia Topuria. I think he's gonna knock out Volk. That's what I think.
I don't know if he's gonna knock out Volk, but for me, this is just a call on Volk's decline. I like Volk as a fighter. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's the best featherweight of all time, even though, I love Max Holloway. But, the fact of the matter is Volk is 3-0 against him, regardless of what you think about the outcomes of those fights. But for me, like Justin said, the vulnerability of Volk being shown, especially with that last head kick KO loss to Islam, and the vulnerabilities that he showed on the mic. I don't want to use that against him, but he was talking about being away from the game and his head being a little messed up, and he jumped at the 6-day rest called to come fight Islam in light of Du Bronx calling out of the fight, and then now he's going to go into another fight top of the year. I don't know if that's a good situation for Volk, so that's why I'm with Topuria. I think he's the guy that's ascending, and just a fade on Volk. Hopefully he proves us wrong, though. I wouldn't be bothered with Volk being the guy here next year too.
Ben, you got Ilia. What's the reason?
Yeah, I just think that he's technical. He's younger. He's going to be faster. And I think he's very calculated. I think he's just as calculated as Volk. Although I will say, guys, I don't think it's going to be the most enjoyable fight when they fight each other, because of the fact that they're both really calculated. I feel like it's going to be a super long feeling out process. There's no doubt that this fight is happening in 2024. I don't know if Ilia needs to maybe win one more or just wait it out. Does Volk have anything lined up, Justin?
No, this fight's next.
This fight's
next.
This fight's next.
Okay.
Ilia's cutting these amazing promos on Twitter, like
they're fighting in Anaheim.
HD videos that look sick.
It's booked.
It's booked. Yeah. UFC 298, February 17th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is just off of Volk coming off that head kick KO, right? Head kick KO.
Yep.
I think you never really want. And he's a guy who comes back and fights pretty quick, not scared to take it on short notice. But like you all said, maybe this is where he finally takes a break. I think he loses this and kind of takes a break. Maybe lets a fight happen and then comes back and rematches Ilia at the end of the year, some shit like that. But he's due for a break, man. He's been very active, and props to him for that. He's never down to shy away from a fight, and he's always down to call in for a fight, like we saw, with fighting Islam on 6 days notice or whatever it was. So I just think it's time that Volk needs a break. So for that reason, I'm going Ilia.
All right. Moving over to lightweight, I have Islam Makhachev, and part of me is a little bit worried about Islam retaining, and the reason would be just because I think he may be 2 fights away from calling it. I think he's going to have a shorter career, and he might retire before the end of the year. And that's the reason why I'm worried about it. But other than that, it's Islam's to hold.
Wow.
Roland.
For me, I think this is all again on matchmaking. If Du Bronx is the next fight against Islam, I like him to get his get back and to ultimately get that belt. But if not, I've seen, Justin Gaethje versus Islam talks, heating up a little bit more from the Gaethje camp more than anything, but kind of hinting at Du Bronx not taking the fight. So, something like that happens, I'll probably change my pick to Islam. But Just hoping Do Bronx gets his get back here more than anything.
Yeah, for me, as much as I hate it, I'm gonna have to go Islam. Just like Gaethje's camp asking for that fight, that's like music to Islam's ears. That's like a butter knife, through butter, baby. That's Gaethje and Islam all over again. That the first one, same shit's gonna happen, bro. People are gonna be talking about all leading up to that fight, breaking it down like, oh, Gaethje was a wrestler. Will he finally come on, bro? Come on. Like, yeah, he's going to get his shot, but as soon as he gets taken down, the fight's over. The first time, it's over. Give me Islam. Yeah, unfortunately.
Going over to welterweight, I have Shavkat winning the welterweight championship. I think this kid is inevitable at this point. I think it's his to lose for 2024. Roland.
Yeah, I'm going Shavkat too. It's Ben, like Justin said, it's more of just the inevitability of it all. Yeah, I think he's probably the best athlete right now out of the group. Like I think out of the guys there, he strikes the most fear, that I would say. So yeah, give me Shavkat here, and I'll let Ben give his take on this next guy. I just want to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, on the pro, you want my take on the true pro's pro, not height, but just a guy that we've seen get it out the mud, go through the ringer, and finally it's time for that title shot. Leon ain't gonna poke his eyes this time. Bilal Muhammad through Ramadan, because that's when Leon Edwards is gonna do it. He's gonna be strategic about it.
He should,
and as a champ should be, right? Because Leon doesn't get to call many shots. As we see, he didn't want to fight Kobe, and Uncle Dana made him do it. So he is going to be strategic. He's going to fight Bilal during Ramadan when he can't even eat till the sun goes down. And Bilal's still going to beat his ass. And then Shavkat will be next. But Shavkat will be exposed. It's going to be that vet lesson. And my bold prediction is by the end of 2024, Justin and Roland will both be on the Bilal Muhammad. And that's a fact.
Yeah, that's not happening. I will be on the Bilal.
I hope he gets a shot next. Is going to say, "Hey, man,
I hope he gets a shot next because I think he's deserving."
The way he beat Shavkat, I can't do anything but respect the guy. Man. That's word for word what Justin's going to say.
Okay, middleweight. I got Dricus Du Plessis eventually winning that title in 2024. Roland.
I got Strickland retaining. I think Strickland, he's gotten a taste of gold, kind of, getting himself a little bit more centered, something that you can count on a little bit more from fight to fight, not so much a wild card now. Got a good corner now, gym of the year we just talked about. So yeah, give me Strickland to retain and hold it at least for one more year.
Yeah, I went with Bo Nickel, and honestly, y'all talked me off of it tonight. So it'll be Bo Nickel, but I'm just gonna side kind of with Roland because Justin kind of said Bo Nickel wants to take the slow route. He probably not going to be fighting for the title next year if he only has 2 fights left on his contract. I didn't know all that when I made my pick. Might be a year too early on this guy too, right, Just?
I think you're going to be a year early the way you were with Strickland.
So I'm going to go with Strickland retaining because I think that Strickland is already in Dricus's head. So I think that's one where Strickland's. I think he is going to win the fight before they even get into the octagon, just with the mind games he's kind of playing with him. Although we have seen Strickland a little out of character, right?
I think Dricus is in Strickland's head.
You think so?
The way he's talking about his father and stuff, stuff is hurting.
I haven't even heard that.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. Got Strickland pretty triggered pretty quickly with that exchange. I guess Strickland opened up about it somewhere. And Dricus
seen that podcast soon with Theo Vaughn, so he had him crying. There's a reason.
It hasn't dropped yet, that podcast?
Not yet.
Okay. Do you guys put any or pay any attention to the scrum that happened there at the last UFC event between Dricus and Sean Strickland there in the stands? Do you think it was a little planned? I mean,
I have a buddy who swears that was WWE. That was
I was gonna say, the more and more that I look back on it, I do think it was a little bit WWE because I mean, who really in their right mind is without expecting something to happen?
But this guy doesn't have a right mind, Roland.
I know, but they seat them next to each other. and then
They
and
kids
then
and Gilbert Burns in between them, bro.
it gets Gilbert Burns. It says, move out of the side. But the part that's getting me now is like when I'm looking back at the shots that Sean Strickland was throwing, it was a little UFC-ish. I mean, WWE-ish. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was just a lot of like quick, like little elbows like that. Like it wasn't really doing much, and then it just goes into the floor. Don't really see anything. You just see Dreykus getting pulled off of him. So I do think it was a little staged.
I've been analyzing that video for quite some time since it's happened. I've been looking at different angles, and there's a video where they pull up, and when Sean Strickland gets up, he's a little wobbly. And then on Twitter, Dreykus did take to Twitter and said, "I've already won tonight. I'll win again next time." So I'm buying in on this being real. I think these fighters are not the most mentally stable guys. That's why they fight in the UFC.
For sure.
Definitely, I think they were assigned to sit there to make this pay-per-view, to get the numbers up. I think this was marketing on whoever assigned these seats.
Well, smart of them, and hopefully they do the numbers.
I put my tinfoil hat on, my little conspiracy hat.
They get that.
Justin, you're saying that they just threw the alley-oop and these guys dunked it home.
That's what I think.
Okay. Got to get that boost.
I don't think it was fake either. I really don't.
All right, moving over to light heavyweight, we have all being Roland Pereira. Roland, why do you got Pereira winning the light heavyweight and holding on to it?
I think it's just more of who he's going to go up against in this division, and I think if it's ultimately fighting Jamal Hill at the end of the year, I like that matchup. I know Ben will probably disagree, but if that's standing, I like Pereira. It's hard for me to side against him. So give me Pereira here, light heavyweight champion.
Yeah, I'm gonna be sharing the Smokey gif after Jamal Hill and Pereira fight. I'm on the record. Jamal Hill is going to knock him the fuck out, bro. Jamal Hill is the truth, and I don't know. Jamal Hill is the truth. Jamal Hill is the truth standing up in a fight where Pereira's not even going to attempt the takedown. I know he's the kickboxer, but Jamal Hill I think he has way more power than Pereira has. So Jamal Hill will be the champ. I know that they made him relinquish it, but he's damn sure either going to have the next fight, the next crack at it, or if not, for sure he's fighting in 2024. So Jamal Hill to be the champ at the end of next year by KO against Pereira. KO.
That's a good call, Ben. I mean, this is a guy that didn't KO Glover. 50-year-old Glover couldn't get him out of there. But the guy can crack. You can ask his brother.
He beat the sensei.
He knows all about it.
He beat the sensei.
Just kidding. That's a total joke. Anyway,
how's it lost for your counterpoint, Justin, to that, to what Ben was saying? Why you think Pereira will be up there?
Well, I think Pereira has already shown by beating two of the top guys in the light heavyweight division. We saw him beat Jan Blachowicz, and we've seen him beat Yuri Prochazka and just pretty much kind of dominate Yuri standing. And Yuri had no answer for him. So when you have, one former champion, or is it two former? I think they both held the light heavyweight championship,
yep.
And he's already got through both of them. I don't see what Jamal Hill's boxing is going to offer.
He retired his coach,
seen
bro.
Already. So I feel like that's going to help Pereira's,
his preparation.
His preparation for retaining.
For sure.
All right, moving over to heavyweight. I got Tom Aspinall retaining throughout 2024. This is just on John Jones maybe not being able to come back as fast. He is getting older. We did see him pull out with that shoulder injury. He never got to fight Stipe. I'm not sure if he's going to get in the octagon in 2024. It's going to take some time to heal that shoulder. So I got to go with Tom Aspinall retaining. I think he's the best heavyweight fighter there is right now. Roland, I like your pick. I want to hear about it.
This is me just having a little bit of fun and also, playing on what you just said about John Jones not necessarily being ready to come back in 2024, because that's initially where my mind went. I was going to side with Ben and go John Jones, but me not being sure that he was going to be ready, and also just buying a little bit into the tabloids. Pereira supposedly has been eyeing Aspinall. Aspinall, at least to me, does not look like the most imposing or the biggest, heavyweight that we've seen necessarily that, would, scare Pereira away from, jumping at that fight. So, yeah, I like Pereira there. If it's Tom Aspinall versus Pereira for a heavyweight championship, I know the UFC won't shy away from making that fight. We all know the UFC likes those fights. It's just a matter of whether or not Pereira can get it done. and I think he's the guy to do it. So yeah, let's have a little bit of fun here.
Roland,
double champ,
3-division champ, middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight. Where does he fall on the GOAT ladder if you're a 3-time 3-division champ here?
He's gonna be up there.
In 3 years in the game or some shit like that.
He'd be like right up there, right? Like at the top somewhere.
No, I just want to ask
Rushmore
you guys,
UFC at that point.
I just want to ask you guys, do you think that it's all just talk, smoke and mirrors, or do you think there's actually some validity to him potentially fighting Aspinall? I'm not saying that you think it's going to happen, but do you think it's valid, or do you think it's all just talk?
It's valid.
All talk.
It's valid. He has the size to step up to the heavyweight division. It's valid.
So you think, Justin, so thank you for your thought, but Ben, you say all talk, there's no chance of this ever happening?
All talk. Yeah.
The super fight could happen against
just
a guy
to
like
grow the
Tom
legend.
Aspinall,
Keep
just
staying in the
because
news.
it's a similar body structure. Tom Aspinall is not the bigger heavyweight, you know. He's not like, you know, Derek Lewis, where it's like, okay, there's a humongous size difference now, and if someone gets on top of Alex Pereira, he's not going to be able to come up. With
The
Tom
moment
Aspinall,
John Jones is ready,
and at
he's
that point,
fighting
he'll
for
be
a
able to
title.
fight him.
The moment John Jones is ready, he's fighting for a title. And he already wasted a lot of time getting his body ready for heavyweight. To waste a whole lot of another time, especially when it's against a young kid like this. I think he fights Aspinall, if Aspinall's the champ at the time, takes him down. But like Justin said, why are we going to keep picking against John Jones? Like, it's just John Jones.
If John Jones can come back, I'm picking John Jones. But my thing was, I don't believe that shoulder will be ready for him to come back in 2024.
Well, I'm gonna take him to see my boy Rufy at Top Grade Physical Therapy.
That's what you need to do.
He'll be back by International Fight Week.
He'll be back in March in that case.
That's right.
All right. Well, guys, this was fun. Like I said, our 3rd annual MMA awards. Let's do it again next year, boys. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm all for it. Always love talking MMA with you guys. Always learn a lot. And like I said at the beginning, it was an interesting year this year. Saw, you know, some of the bigger names kind of, you know, go off into the, you know, the shadows a little bit. Let some other, you know, names make themselves household. You know, we didn't talk about him as much, but, you know, O'Malley, you know, pretty much everybody knows who that guy is now. You know, big riser in 2023. So yeah, always love talking MMA.
Ben, any sign off?
No, there was definitely a lot of changing of the guard. I mean, we saw guys like Usman, who we thought would be a champ for a very long time, Shevchenko, Adesanya, who we thought had already run through that whole division. There was a lot of changing of the guard, and I mean, even at the heavyweight division, now we see somebody like Tom Aspinall, you know, as a champ. So a lot of changing of the guard, and that's the great thing with UFC and these 4-ounce gloves, bro. Unlike boxing, you know, one shot and it's over, one head kick and it's over for Usman, even if it's in the 5th round. So gotta love MMA, and you know, I'm sure that we're gonna see some shit we've never seen before in 2024, but I'm ready for it. Definitely ready for it.
One question before we leave, because you brought up a fighter that I do want to talk about, and that's Usman. Any chance we're seeing him comeback of the year next year if he fights Hamzat again, 5-rounder this time, and wins? Do we see him, you know, reclaim glory in middleweight now? Any chance of this?
That's interesting that none of us picked Hamzat to be a champion next year. I thought at least one person might have had him as their pick.
For me, the whole Hamzat kind of allure kind of weared off with Usman. I didn't.
And Burns.
And Burns. I didn't see, you know, the killer that, you know, everybody's been making him out to be. You know, yeah, he ragdolled Kevin Holland, but really, I mean, what does that prove to everybody, right? So yeah, the allure of Hamzat kind of wore off for me this year with the matchups that we saw him go up against, especially with Usman. I thought he was going to roll Usman's head, but Usman really, you know, showed the championship mindset and, you know, got through that fight. But yeah, Justin, good call out. I think he could definitely be in the running for comeback fighter of the year next year.
I'd like to see him back.
I'm a big Usman fan, but I don't see it at all. I mean, this is a guy who's been talking about hanging it up while he was a champ, you know, right? Saying, I maybe have a couple of more fights left. Now that the road's going to get harder for him to get back up to the top, I mean, he hasn't fallen all the way off, right? But one more loss, and I don't think he ever gets a title shot again. So his next fight is going to be the most important fight of his career to date, because it's going to determine whether he does get another title shot or not. But man, we've heard people talking about his knees being held together by straws and toothpicks. Like, I think we've seen the best days of Kamaru Usman are behind us already.
And then just one last question. Do we see Conor McGregor in the octagon in 2024?
Absolutely.
I think twice.
Twice. Okay, so then is Chandler one of them?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No,
We got
I
Chandler.
don't think it's Chandler. I think we see Conor twice in 2024. I think we're going to see him box one time.
You think they got rid of USADA so he could go and box?
Yeah, I think we're going to see Pacquiao Conor.
No.
That fight makes sense. It's kind of what he was pushing for last Saturday.
In
I think we're
Saudi?
going to see that. Yeah, I think the Saudis are going to buy it.
That's what
Dana's going to do it.
They did not kick out USADA for him to not get back in the octagon, bro.
No, he's going to get in the octagon, but I think he's also going to box.
Be boxing fights.
No, you said one of them will be a boxing fight.
One will be boxing.
But you didn't say Chandler, though. You don't think he fights Chandler?
No, I think he's holding off on Chandler. He's kind of like, that's the whole stalling process. I think he doesn't want to fight Chandler. I don't think he feels like Chandler deserves to fight him.
So what's the name?
honestly think we might see Nate Diaz back. I think
I saw that circled around.
Nate. Yeah.
Chandler was talking about that. He said that he thought McGregor was waiting him out so he can go fight Diaz or somebody easier than him.
So we're here saying Nate Diaz is going to be comeback fighter of the year in 2024.
Hey man, that'll make you happy. You just lost one. I don't say lost because he said he's not going to retire.
Hey, bro, let's not bring him up, bro. We're not going to give him an award,
he said CSO lives on for another year.
It does.
CSO lives on.
In his mind, it still
not
is.
dead yet. It's not dead yet. So
no.
The Stockton slap, not dead
Where's
yet.
Cody Brundage at? Feed him fucking Cody Brundage. Feed him somebody like that.
I heard people talk about, Tony Ferguson versus Clay Guida.
That might be they both got 7 losses in a row. That makes sense.
Hell no, we don't want that.
Loser leaves at that point.
That's takedown city, and Tony don't like to get up, bro. He still thinks he's got blades and shit. Nah, we don't want that. We want straight stand-up. Like, put him in there against Pereira. Just somebody who's not going to shoot a takedown at all, bro.
Or him versus
Patty again. I mean,
him and Dan Hooker. Him and Dan Hooker, or Dan Hooker puts him out.
Oh, no, he'll put him out.
We don't want any takedown threats. None at all.
I think that would be fireworks, but probably not for Tony.
All right. I'm glad we're ending the podcast talking about Tony. Shout out El Cucuy, man.
So that's a wrap for 2023. I hope we're going to make maybe one more podcast before the year ends. It is Wednesday, December 27th when we're recording this. So we hope to see you guys before the new year. And if not, Happy New Year's.
Yeah.
Peace.